So this is one of my favorite films of all time. Goes back to the 90s era. Fantastic bunch of films. Patriot Games, which was based on a series of amazing novels by Tom Clancy. Obviously, you've heard of him. I think they've made a lot of, we've heard of a lot of sort of things, films, TV shows. Jack Ryan, the TV show, this character, played by Harrison Ford, originally played by Alec Baldwin. He played him in Hunt for Red October, another incredible film. Alec Baldwin and Sean Connery. Tom Clancy's series of books about John Patrick Ryan, so Jack Ryan, who is he's like a professor, but he's an ex-Marine and intelligence guy. And he gets caught up in what I like is this is actually the first part is in London, so there's a big overlap between US and London. So in this film, he plays off opposite Sean Bean. You've got a little surprise cameo by Richard Harris. Anne Archer's in it as well, and Samuel Jackson has a little part in it too. It's kind of cool. So directed by Philip Noyce, who's an Australian director, who's not that well known in terms of the awards world. Or this is what I love about 90s, 80s movies. A lot of the action directors, are really good, and effectively they were incredible at making films, but they never really got the sort of gravitas you get from a lot of these. Obviously, the award ceremonies or people kind of honoring them. I mean, Ridley Scott, what I love about Ridley Scott, he did a lot of sci-fi. He did epics like Gladiator, but he also did sort of a lot of action films as well in the 90s. He did, I think he did Black Rain's an incredible film by with Michael Douglas and Andy Garcia. Incredible film. But ultimately, but Ridley Scott is like a one of a million, I guess. He does so many films. It's kind of no doubt he will get recognized at some point. Also, he did Alien, which is one of the best sci-fis of all time. Created the whole genre of that horror series, and also he also did obviously Blade Runner, which is obviously incredible. Anyway, back to this one, Philip Noyce, starring Harrison Ford as Jack Ryan. It's where the sort of the main character protagonist shifts from being a kind of analyst professor character, having a peaceful life with his family, to suddenly being chucked into the kind of era of action. So he becomes a reluctant action protagonist. And what I like about this, it kind of bridges the kind of Cold War thrillers into something a bit more personal, but also very visceral, action focused, So on the surface, the film's talks about basically an ex-CIA analyst who stops a terrorist attack, becomes a target himself, and he's an intellectual. So what I love about the film, he's not really shown as a kind of action guy. He's like a reluctant action hero. He's kind of dragged into it. Like if you look at the hero's journey, how people write movies and write stories, they always say, the hero answers the call, but sometimes the hero doesn't want to answer the call, They're kind of dragged into it, really. So that's the tension the film constantly plays with, the reluctant hero. And he's more of a thinking man, professor, but what if he's forced into a world of violence and action where, they don't really care about thinking, it's all about physical. And Harrison, obviously, like many of his other films, brings a really sort of grounded sort of intensity to this part. He's very paternal. He's got a little door in it. His wife, Anne Archer, adds a lot of emotional stakes to it. So it's very much a family-focused film as well, which I really like. And Sean Bean, one of the legendary actors, he was in, obviously, Lord of the Rings as Boromir. He's been in loads of films. National Treasure. He's been in many, many films. This is probably one of his best roles, I think. He's very underrated as an actor and very cold and villain like in this, and he's been in a lot of films in the 90s as the villain, I think. But what I love is that, they've just face off really well. Philip Noyce shoots it a bit like more of a political kind of film rather than an action one. And I like the camera work. They use real world locations. They use London, real London, and so it gives it a really good global piece around this. And what I like, it's closer to Hunt for Red October, the first one, but it's not really. That was also more like focused on, the story, and not just like an action film like Die Hard, for example. So I would say it's all about key themes: personal versus political. Terrorism being brought into the home, really, and sort of kind of, you hear about stuff you'd never think it's going to happen, and then you sort of see this kind of film is like, interesting action sequence right at the beginning, where he's suddenly dragged into it, basically through his thoughts, protecting his family. What I love is Ryan's constantly out of his depth. He's an ex-Marine, but he's not hugely physical. Obviously, he's been a professor for a while. He's more of a analyst and more of a guy who's effectively teaching at the beginning. And one act of heroism kind of triggers a whole chain reaction. So it's sort of makes it very realistic, the cost of intervention, what happens. Like, there's standout moments. The London ambush is very messy, chaotic, very realistic. The boat sequence is really incredible, and the house sequence is really good at the end. So where it really sort of Jack Ryan franchise really defines itself. It's just all about what happens if normal people had to carry the weight of geopolitical world issues, and it's less cerebral than Red October, which is a really much more cerebral film, and it's more grounded, and then you have a bit more action heavy later on. Harrison went on to do another Jack Ryan, did Clear and Present Danger after that, which is even bigger. Philip Noyce directed that too, and he helped shape the whole 90s techno thriller kind of vibe of films, and it elevated Sean Bean into a iconic villain sort of the world, where he's obviously done a lot more after that. And so I would say not a really loud, flashy film, but I think it's its understatedness is why it has its appeal. But yeah, highly, highly good film. One of my most favorite films of all time. And what I love about it, you can continually watch it again and again. It's one of the favorites, and that's Patriot Games with Harrison Ford and Sean Bean, which is on Prime. I think it's on Paramount Plus subscription. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.